Okay, welcome back. So this is an exciting phase, really. Hot in your mouth type of thing, really, I suppose, at one level, because we're going to look at weathering the whole fuselage side here for the Sea King. So I would just urge you, just check out the net, just do some Google searches on the HU.5 Sea King, and you'll see that you've got varying degrees of quite severe staining, exhaust staining down at the side here immediately after the exhaust, and then progressively, if you look carefully, you'll see that it stains all the side of the fuselage with all sorts of interesting sort of rivet panel lines sort of emerging, blah, and all the rest of it. You've got to do something about that. I think you've got to try and represent it, because it just looks a bit too stark without it, and just not realistic, because I haven't found one picture really of an operational HU.5 Sea King where there wasn't a fair bit of staining. So I'm going to do that with pastels. You can see my two sets that I use here. There's loads of information in the techniques bank if you want to know more about this and what products I use and all the rest of it, and brushes and all the rest of it. So do have a good look there. But the main thing here is about trying to get on with it and show you at least how I can create the effect that I'm after. Varying brushes, I've got a whole bunch of old cut down brushes, broad ones, wide ones. So these are going to be the primary two for sort of applying the pastel chalk dust, particularly the dark grey around immediately after the exhaust. These really are quite good for sort of stabbing it into the surface. Come back to the fact that I applied that matte varnish, and this is where that's going to really help us now. If it's not matte, then it's much harder for the pastels to get a grip and take hold. And then these two broader ones are much more about blending in the effects and trying to get a more subtle effect. If it does all go south and you think, oh God, I really hate that, then you can try wiping it off with a bit of tissue and some water. And if you really don't like that, then simply just come back with the base colour and a thin mix of the grey, and just spray out where it's a bit too heavy. And I think that should look very effective if you need to salvage a situation. So I've had a little bit of a play already on the other side, and you can see, I think you can see that here. So this is the kind of effect that I'm after, which is this kind of heavier staining here, and you can see that it's come down some of the panels, and it definitely has this kind of slightly more graduated effect, but it stains all the way down here over the 23 and the roundel. There's possibly a bit more to do yet, but I don't want to overcook it. I don't want to kind of trash the model as if it's really filthy. I want it to look well used, operational, but not absolutely trashed. So I quite like that. I think that effect's quite nice. So that's what we're going to try and create on the other side. So just try and make sure you get a half sensible handhold here. Right, and away we go, really. So there's no, it's pretty easy. It's not difficult to do this, but it's just about trying to do a whole sensible job of it. Here we go. So the short stubby one here, let's get that going in here to start with. So just a point to make, another point to make here, which I make in the videos, I think, where I try and show the technique in a bit more detail elsewhere. This is about building up the effect. It will take a little bit of time, but the other side, probably took about 20 minutes, something like that. So it's not going to take forever, which I think is good. So just trying to basically lay down some of this pastel dust to start with. You may have noticed I still haven't unmasked all the clear parts. Well, that was intentional, because there's a lot of this dust floating about. I don't care if it goes in some of the interior here, you won't see that anyway, but it might go in and then perhaps get caught on the inside of the glass, and I don't particularly want that to happen. So it's basically just protecting the glass anyway. At this early stage is probably quite a good shout, really. So it definitely kind of comes down a bit here. So I'm going to use the second brush just to begin a little bit of enhancing of those lines of rivets, and generally a bit of mank. And you got the door on this side, so we're going to have to do the door as well, so don't forget that, because it'll look bizarre if you've got a nice clean door on here. Just take some of this here and just come round, create a bit of a shadowing effect as well in here, will work quite well. So it's going to take a while this, but see, this blending part is really important because it's a big step in trying to get the final effect that we're after here. Definitely need to darken some of this up a bit. Quite interesting, not really helped on a day like this where it's actually about 30 degrees outside. So for us Brits here, that's quite a it's quite hot really. Not used to stuff being that hot, so it's just warm to work. So I'm just whinging really, so I'll shut up. These are smaller two blending brushes here. But hopefully you can begin to at least kind of get the idea. So you can see I rarely am applying new pastel chalk to these blending brushes because there's enough on it to be quite subtle, which I like. And if you can just spot that there, you can see that is building up quite nicely. If you just play that over the surface, it'll just pick out those rivets a little bit as well, which is quite nice. So it's coming on, but you get the idea. That's how this kind of technique works, and it's really just about keep checking, take stop and come back, have a look at it in different lightings, and think, okay, how is that looking? And the main thing is just to kind of stop when you think, no, that's about it. Just stop. Very easy to kind of just overcook it, get carried away basically. You just think, oh, I like this, build it up, and then you look at it out from a distance and you think, oh, what? I don't think so. That's all a bit much. Just try and do a little bit back here, not too much because it gets very, very thin generally towards that back end there. But this all helps to make the markings look as if they were painted on and have weathered at the same point and at the same rate as the the rest of the airframe, which is what would happen in the real world. Definitely get a little bit into this sort of step thing, which I don't think that is. While we're at it, we can put a little bit on inside the doorway there as well. A few sort of scarfs and dirty kind of marks. Actually, just picking up some raised rivets in there, which is quite nice. Again, just adds a little bit of interest. I think you see that. Hope you can just see that. And that's probably about it for the moment. We can always come back later on if you think do a little bit more on that, then come back and add some. But essentially, that's the majority of that exhaust staining done, and the sort of general mank and stuff down the side there. Although I do just notice that that's not quite as much as I had thought. So I'm just going to add a little